Hello again. This is PSA number 2. Title being Political Correctness Offends Me. Actually, I just like this oxymoronic play on words. However, this one will not be politically correct. And it tries to tie two things together that you wouldn't think would have anything to do with one another. Those two motivating factors here being one, which explains why in the past people caught masturbating were institutionalized or imprisoned. The other explaining the rationale or lack thereof of Islamic dog slaughtering. The connection? Masturbation used to be, and still is in many countries today, considered a form of mental illness because it undermines one's morality and self worth. The irony is that the reason it causes guilt and low self esteem is because we are taught that it causes guilt and low self esteem. Same deal with dog slaughtering. They believe dogs are evil because they have been taught that dogs are evil, which makes the dogs not like them very much, which reinforces the belief that dogs are evil. The reality is, they're just dogs. Stop being afraid of them and so mean to them, and they might like you a little better. When we adopt ideas that we think are our own but are actually made up by someone else, we are unable to modify these brittle ideas because we didn't think them up in the first place. And they become absolute regardless of how foolish. We want to learn, but once you truly believe you have all the answers, you stop asking questions. The convenience of this is not coincidental. In the capitalist world, we use media to tell our kids what clothes, music, movies, games, whatever that they like to create the perfect consumer. In the jihadist world, they keep their young men in an agonizing state of adolescent sexual frustration with the promise of a lust-fulfilling afterlife reward if they avenge their God, to create the perfect disposable soldier. Maybe that's why they hate dogs. A dog sees his master as the creator of all things, but I doubt even a dog is dumb enough to think that in the afterlife his master will be waiting there with porterhouse steaks and a line of poodles in heat. This be a good boy, get a treat discipline keeps us in line, often exploiting our fear of the unknown. The mysterious question, for example, of what happens when we die has become an enigmatic taboo. The answer is available only through the ambiguous writings of people who thought the earth was flat and the sun revolved around it. Most likely, like everything else, we just haven't figured out death yet, until we learn how to measure and verify these processes, with the outcomes eventually ending up in some school book somewhere between what makes electricity and how does an eclipse work. Not that these ancient writings weren't inspired and profound, but the literalism forced on these beautiful poetic stories has buried the life lessons they teach us, leaving an archaic science and moral dogma comprised of rewards and punishments that demote God to an entity predisposed to human ambitions and failures. I partially blame language, or more so the inadequacies of translation. I mean, we don't even have a pronoun for the word God. The pronoun it sounds so impersonal. She, well, that was totally out of the question. So we're stuck with he, his will, to serve him, etc., which subconsciously suggests that God has a penis, and a rather large one, I'm sure. Attached to this is a whole host of biochemical neural attributes that make us think he has the same emotional framework as us mammals. But just because I make fun of the popular grouchy Santa notion of God as an old white-beard guy in heaven with nothing to do all day except keep up on his naughty and nice list, that doesn't mean I'm an atheist. It just means that I think we have about as much chance of understanding God as a white blood cell has of understanding the much larger entity that created it and which it serves as it goes through its mundane routine and total darkness through our veins. Very little enhancement of this perception can be found in the extrapolated moralities and prophetic consequences that are superimposed on our beliefs to maintain the collective obedience of those who, as said, truly believe they have all the answers and stop asking questions. So I surrender to the fact that it simply cannot be conceptualized, and joyously surrender to my own insignificance, our life being just a microscopic nanosecond in time. You can believe the Big Bang created the universe, you can believe God created the universe, or you can just say God created the Big Bang. You can say God created man, or that evolution created man, or you can just say that God is evolving. For me, it doesn't really matter because I choose to believe that God is the universe, alive in a way that cannot be defined, in the spaces between atoms, to the spaces between galaxies, the invisible canvas of a holographic temporal stereogram, And what we call reality is the universe manifesting itself to perceive itself. Perhaps because, like the proverbial tree that falls and no one is there to hear it, the universe as a single and complete entity no longer has a separate point of reference to acknowledge its own existence, and therefore does not exist. So it perceives itself through fragmentation, seeking defragmentation, from Big Bang to Big Crunch and presumably back again, with all things big and small made up of just dots in this exponentially pixelated jigsaw puzzle, including us. We are made of the same exact atoms that make up all the stars and all the planets in all the universe, past, present, and future. This simple, unbreakable fact alone suggests that everything is connected and recycled. Every particle an integral component, not just a creation. Any argument of, my God can beat up your God, is only a team mentality that obscures that connection and is often used to make us root for the home team and overcome our adversaries that have been predefined for us. The best advice from any ancient story probably comes from the New Testament, where Jesus, on the Mount, said, "Thou shalt stop being assholes to one another." And really, it's in there. I saw it. That advice alone is all we truly need. And the rest we can only understand how it all works, but never understand why it all works. The very most we can hope for is to embrace and celebrate the poetry in motion that lets it all work. You can call it God or Ra or Allah or Tao or Carl or anything you like. The name is for your convenience only and yours to keep and use as often as you like, absolutely free. Amen. Thank you and enjoy your day.